Welcome to the Beyond the Mat podcast, an in-depth talk show discussing exclusively WWE topics.
My name's Rick Boogs, and I came to rock with the Beyond the Mat podcast that is beyond the M-A-T-T podcast. Ah!
Everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Mat podcast. We have been gone for about a week or two, but we are back and better than ever. Here to talk about some WWE news and some preview of Clash at the Castle coming up this weekend. Maybe a little bit of NXT news as well. We got some new guys on the roster, and I got Brad with me tonight. How's it going, Brad?
Hey, Matt. Great to be back.
All right. Now, before we get into it, I want to encourage all of you guys to leave us a 5-star rating, maybe a review on whatever podcast platform you can find us on. We are on all of them, including YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everything else. Also, follow us on social media at Beyond Mat WWE. So we have some new tag champions crowned on Monday night. I don't think it was the tag champions that a lot of people were thinking were going to be crowned, but I got to tell you, I was actually pleasantly surprised because I think that a lot can come out of crowning those champions. What do you think of that one, Brad?
Yeah, man, I was happy it was not this Dakota Kai and Io Sky team. First of all, I think, or the Bayley faction team. I think that Dakota Kai has looked awful in this entire run. I think she looks no better than Aaliyah, despite what anyone says or thinks. I mean, I don't know how you could look at her wrestle and say that, oh, wow, this is a champion here. Io has looked good, but I'm really happy that they didn't win. And, you know, the only thing is, what does it set up? Because I think that Bayley's faction, they're not going to want to make them look weak for too long. So what does it really set up? I don't know.
Well, we got a babyface team winning, so it can set up a possible feud with the heel team. Now, also in the match, blind tag to Aaliyah. I thought the blind tag was executed very well. You know, the ref gave the tag signal. Aaliyah hid, ringside, got in, but she pinned the non-legal opponent in Dakota Kai. So if they choose to recognize that, they could have Dakota Kai and Io Sky immediately try to come right back and feud with them for those belts. But also at the house show loops, we've been seeing Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler tag against Aaliyah and Raquel almost every night on the SmackDown roster house shows. In fact, the one I was at in Atlantic City a few weeks ago, that was the matchup, and Rousey and Baszler ended up winning that match. Now, that tag team could just be something that they're doing for the house shows. We don't know what's going to happen with Baszler and Liv Morgan this weekend, which we'll get into. But, it opens the door for them to have a feud with another heel team. It also, kind of, if you just had that Bayley faction team go over, which I'm in agreement with you. I'm a little bit underwhelmed. I was excited to see them come back at SummerSlam and it's been downhill ever since. I personally I feel like Bailey does what she needs to do, but she's underwhelming on the microphone. It really doesn't give me any kind of mission statement or what the hell she's actually all about. I mean, I understand that she is there to restore control and restore prominence or whatever to the women's division. And that's great. And they've done, some good things with the women's division since she came back. But at the same time, if you have Dakota Kai and Io Sky go over, then it's just, then you bury Raquel and Aaliyah right then and there. But having Raquel and Aaliyah win that sort of continues and makes the women's tag division continue to be relevant, because it's now the titles are being held by somebody that the heels are going to want to get it off of, whichever heel team. We saw on NXT, Nikki Ash and Doudrop going to be wrestling for the NXT women's tag titles at that pay-per-view on Sunday. And you never know, they could go over in that one, and then we could have a unification match between those two teams. So, the one thing I'll say about this tag tournament is that really, other than Toxic Attraction and maybe the Io Sky and Dakota Kai team, which really wasn't a team until they decided to be a team, all these tag teams aren't even tag teams. It was just Natalya and Sonya and Bliss and Asuka, which before SummerSlam, Bliss was saying that whoever won between Lynch and Belair, she was coming after him. What happened to that? Now all of a sudden they're tagging together in the 6-woman tag match this weekend. So I would have preferred to see a little bit more of a kayfabe storyline reason for any of these teams to be formed. I mean, I get it with the Bliss and Asuka team. I get it with the Kai and Sky. But other than that, and obviously Nikki and Doudrop were like the only real team in there. The other ones are just people that are thrown together. And if you're Raquel Rodriguez, are you picking Aaliyah to be your partner?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And let's not forget, Toxic Attraction was a real team, and they got removed from the bracket due to an injury, or so they say, an injury. But yeah, Matt, you're right. A lot of things thrown together here, just randomly thrown together, including the team that won the championship. We got a huge pyro celebration for them. I just can't see, like you said, there was no build to this team being a thing. I think the only thing that we're seeing out of them is Raquel picking up Aaliyah and kind of carrying her around like she's her stuffed animal, like almost like she's her child or something.
Yeah, that's exactly how they came into the ring and exited the ring even after they lost at the house show. They come down there with, big Raquel Rodriguez carrying little Aaliyah and twirling around in the ring together like they've been doing this for 20 years. And I was just like, what is going on here? But the fact that they were wrestling against Baszler and Rousy, kind of excited me, just to the point where maybe we're going to see Rousy and Baszler tag together, and then maybe that team can win the tag titles, and then maybe that's when Naomi and Sasha make their return. Now, the other thing about Naomi and Sasha is everybody wanted to see them return on Raw. Didn't happen. People are saying maybe they'll return at Clash at the Castle. I don't think so. And how do we even know they're returning as a tag team? No, they don't need, they don't need to return as a tag team. They can return as individual women's competitors. So
yeah, they're just so tied at the hip right now. And you're right. That could be an option where they just come back individually, one here, one there. I could even see a scenario where you're watching SmackDown after Clash of the Castle. Charlotte Flair shows up, the new Liv Morgan opponent. And who comes out? Sasha Banks. And who comes out after that? Naomi. I think that is a very realistic possibility, almost like a month-long feud between all four of them, Liv Morgan, Sasha, Naomi, and Charlotte, to see who's the next competitor for that belt, with potentially Ronda getting thrown in there as well, or Baszler. So I am really confused just by this tag team championship thing. And I guess that Alexa, Bianca, and Asuka running in at the end of that match and stopping Bayley's further cheating was the way that they figured would build the best heat for this 6-man tag team match, or 6-woman tag team match at Clash at the Castle. But I don't know, man. I don't know if now people are going to be as invested in this Bayley team now that they don't have the title. I mean, they've proven to be losers now. Am I right? I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, but it was a clever blind tag by the winning team, and she snuck in there and rolled Dakota Kai up, and Dakota Kai wasn't the lead. And Dakota Kai even said out loud after the match on screen, I was not legal, so how could I be pinned and lose the match? But so I do have a feeling that that's going to be part of this at some point. It won't be mentioned, or I mean, maybe it'll be mentioned, but it won't be, dealt with on SmackDown this week, as SmackDown was preemptive. It's already been taped. It was taped last week. The roster, I believe, is already over in the UK, if not today or tomorrow. So, we'll see what happens there. But I think of all possibilities, I think an immediate feud between those two teams, between the Kai and Sky team and the tag champions, is probably the most likely thing. But, you could have Nikki and Doudrop. You could have, like I said, Baszler and Rousey, which would certainly give some validity to the women's tag team division. So there's a lot of different directions they can go. And I think that putting the tag titles on the unlikely team is something that, keeps it more relevant, because it keeps those teams I mentioned, if some of them are even in existence, it keeps them on the chase of it. And, having it in the main event and having it in a big swerve like that, it's got people talking about it. If it was what everybody thought was going to happen, then it would just be like, okay, they're the tag champs. Now, the other part of it that I think was smart was that you have Bayley, Kai, and Sky against the Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka. So you would have the tag champs on one side and the women's champion on one side, and whichever team loses then has, you're basically having, you don't want to pin Bayley in that match, right? And so then you don't want to pin one of the tag champions. And on the flip side of that, I guess you could have Bayley's team win, but you don't want to pin Belair, and, making her team lose sort of defines her down a bit, which Bianca Belair in and of herself, I feel, has been defined down tremendously since her WrestleMania win, other than her win over Lynch at SummerSlam and the ensuing Becky Lynch face turn on Raw and all that. I don't see it with Bianca Belair as far as star power, and like her title run just has not done it for me. What do you think about Bianca and her title run?
Oh yeah, I think it's been really bad, and she has not look, like a lot of champions not wrestling on TV. We used to see Bianca on a regular basis on Raw when she was chasing the title, but now we see a version of Bianca where she hardly says anything. She comes out, she does her dance, she twirls the braid, and she might get on the mic for a second or two here or there, but you can't compare this to the way Roman carries himself as a champion with the promos, or the way Becky carried herself as a champion with the promos, or Charlotte with the promos, or anything like that. She does not say enough to get you invested in her. And I don't know why I, I don't know, when she's on the mic, I don't feel like she's really that good. I hate to say that, but I don't think she's really anything out of this world, unlike the people I just mentioned who are champions or have been champions recently.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't been very strong at all. The character, I just doesn't do it for me. Now on the other side, SmackDown side, I don't think Liv Morgan's been much stronger on the microphone or really in any capacity in her title run. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But away from that real quick and circle back to it when we get to Clash of the Castle. Let's revisit what happened on SmackDown real quick. SmackDown opened up with a match between Ricochet and Happy Corbin. This was a rematch from 2 weeks ago. Seemed like almost the same thing as 2 weeks ago. A little bit shorter of a match. Ricochet was they hyped Ricochet up on commentary on his way to the ring, but then it didn't feel like they really said much at all on commentary about what Ricochet was doing, all his, flashy moves in the ring at all. Even his shooting star press was just, they acted like it was just another move. And, they used the telestrator to death on Happy Corbin. And it really felt like this match was all about Happy Corbin just being down and done. And I think we're going to see a gimmick change there. What do you think about Happy Corbin and a possible gimmick change?
Yeah, I think Corbin is one of the best people on SmackDown. I think that he, is just the type of guy that will go out there and give you everything he has and does anything that is expected of him or asked of him. I really respect the guy, and I think he's great, as a wrestler and as a character even. I think he's very entertaining when he speaks, and I do think they're setting him up, like you said, Matt, for a gimmick change. With, everything he does, he's a loser. That Pat McAfee telestrator drawing on the screen stuff was clearly done for a reason. And Corbin was staying still in the ring in that corner for a reason, for such a long time. So they could do that. So yeah, the only thing I could think is that he's going to go to maybe being bum ass Corbin. That might be the character. I don't think it's going to be the same broke character that we saw before. I think it's going to be more bum ass Corbin. I think that actually is going to be the name of the character.
Yep. And I think something like that's going to, I don't know if it'll be bum ass Corbin, but it'll be something along the lines of, down and out Corbin, something. I don't know, but I don't think they're going back to the lone wolf thing. Now, Triple H is just sort of hitting rewind with a lot of people. All of a sudden now we have reports that Braun Strowman has re-signed with WWE, which I'm not excited about at all, to be honest with you. It's like they're bringing back all kinds of acts that, to me, were let go for a reason and a good reason. And is Braun Strowman a better giant than somebody like Omos? Sure, but how many giants do we need on the roster? We really only need one. And Guenther himself, the Intercontinental Champion, is kind of a giant in and of himself. So, you have Guenther, you have Strowman, who I guess could maybe be a challenger for Guenther going down the line. But if they're bringing back Strowman, that means Wyatt's not far behind the corner. And, they're getting pretty deep and bringing back all kinds of guys that are going to make the roster very muddled. And, to me, might be a little bit much for my liking. I don't need all these different guys coming back. They got Gargano back, and all they had for him to do on Raw was have a pre-taped before the fans even got into the arena, and it was basically a foil for Austin Theory. And it seems like he's going to be feuding with Theory, but all these re-signs and bringbacks, and there's a couple guys that are reportedly leaving AEW as well, could come back to WWE. It's like we may see a completely different product within a couple months from now, maybe by Survivor Series. The whole roster and the whole complexity of everything is completely different than it was this summer.
Yeah. And we're also getting apparently Solo Sikoa, who is the Usos' younger brother, coming up as well to SmackDown. And I understand, you want to have enough time for everyone, or at least for people to get their shine in, in certain spots. And you're not going to get that if you have an over bloated roster. Like, I know that you have injuries and things like that, but we're going to get those people back. And then it's going to feel really crowded, because when you get Randy Orton back, when you get Charlotte Flair back, when you get Rick Boogs get back, when you get, I mean, there's a whole host, Cody Rhodes, Sasha Banks, Naomi, so many people coming back. What are you going to do with all these people? Like, you're going to have people that are going to be sitting, backstage for weeks on end with nothing to do, like Drew Gulak does now. So it's, I think sometimes less is more in these situations. You're right, Matt.
And then, or, guys that aren't getting time on the main roster are going to be going down and doing stuff on NXT and things like that. I can see a lot of different factions forming, and, faction being led by one person, just like Bayley's faction's being led by her, and the other two are the workers of the faction doing matches right now, at least for now, until Bayley, eventually has what I think she'll have in a title shot with Bianca Belair. But, Bayley has not impressed me at all since she came back. She doesn't even look like she was ready to come back. And I honestly think that her promos have not been very good. And I think under Triple H's creative here, they are not scripting the promos as they were under Vince. And maybe Bayley was somebody who kind of needed that, because she doesn't seem very good off the cuff to me. It's just like she kind of just says the same thing every time, and it's really just not significant.
She's coming across to me like a Midwestern housewife who's 45, 50 years old, with the short hair and the annoying whiny voice, and telling, you shut up, you don't know any, like, it just comes across as really annoying. And I want it to stop. And I agree with you. She's someone that they're almost giving too much leeway to, or trusting too much, and maybe not deserving that trust. Like, you can trust a Seth Rollins with a promo, or a Roman Reigns with a promo, or Becky Lynch with a promo. Kevin Owens, exactly. She's not in that league right now, or maybe she's just so rusty and not used to doing it that it's just not coming back to her as quickly. But I am not impressed with Bayley at all, and I think that the two people she's teamed up with, look, Io is great in the ring, but she can't speak. She makes Asuka look like a poet laureate. And I'm not saying in terms of their English skills. And Dakota Kai really isn't very good on the mic either. So I hate that faction, man. I'm going to be honest with you. I hate their faction. I wouldn't mind seeing them just go away completely.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. But I'm not impressed with the faction either. I'm all for factions. I'm all for, women's factions and women's feuds, and, bringing back people that are skilled in the ring, which Io Sky definitely is. Dakota Kai, in my opinion, is, everybody says that she's great and all these things. I don't see it. I see almost a female version of a poor man's Tommaso Ciampa. And Tommaso Ciampa, quite frankly, despite what most people want to say, doesn't impress me all that much either. I mean, he's good in some areas, but in some areas he's kind of repetitive, and it's a lot of knees and a lot of just, he does that pin where it looks like he's about to have sex with his opponent in missionary position. I mean, I don't know. But, moving on from that stuff, we had all night long on SmackDown, we had the Drew McIntyre stuff. we had the promo by him, and then we had some pretty nice video packages, really sort of outlining his journey here. And, you know, ahead of this match with Roman Reigns at Clash at the Castle, you know, just sort of illustrating that this is, you know, the moment for him and things like that. And, you know, they don't give that treatment to the challenger to the championship very often. And I wonder if this is going to be the time where they dethrone Roman Reigns. Now, SmackDown went off the air with Drew getting the absolute piss kicked out of him by the Usos and Sami Zayn, and Roman placing a chair over him after choking him out with the guillotine choke and holding up the belts and saying that he's, you know, the man in the whole business. So Bloodline and Roman Reigns stood tall there to end that SmackDown. But I don't know how this SmackDown, which has already been taped, is going to end. Now, part of this SmackDown coming up this week is going to be Roman Reigns' celebration of his title run. And I wonder
700 days, right?
His 700-day celebration. So I wonder if that's going to be crashed by McIntyre or something like that. I'd rather see it crashed by Karrion Kross, because if you crash it with McIntyre, then I think that you're telegraphing that McIntyre is going to lose at Clash of the Castle. And I think this is the one time, to me, for a Roman Reigns opponent other than Lesnar, where you can really see him possibly dropping the title. I mean, Roman or Drew McIntyre is as formidable as they come. He's great at his promos. He looks great. He's great in the ring. You know, as much as I love Riddle and you know, as much as I would have loved to see him win that match on SmackDown, we all knew he was not going to win that match. And, you know, I just would really like to see Drew McIntyre win this match. And I think that this is, you know, other than Brock Lesnar, to you, is there anybody else who's been more of a threat than Drew McIntyre?
No, this is the match that I can see Roman losing, especially because of the location of it. I mean, this is in Drew McIntyre's home country. This is a place, and we've seen, like you alluded to, the video packages, how much this means to him. And I can't see them doing Drew dirty and having him lose this match in that setting. Now, if this was in Detroit, Michigan, or this was in Toronto or whatever, Florida, sure, I would give Roman an 85% chance of winning. Here, I think it's 50-50. You know, I think it would be very messed up of them to have Drew take a clean loss. And you know it's going to be a clean. I mean, Matt, I actually have to ask you that. Do you think that this match between Drew and Roman ends clean? If you had to bet, like, is there some sort of interference? Is there someone that comes in and pokes someone in the eye or hits someone with a chair when the ref's down? And or is this just a straight up match with a lot of crazy stuff going on, and you get a 1, 2, 3?
I think that there will be something, but I don't think it will directly impact the finish. It won't be like somebody comes in and distracts Drew and that allows Roman to spear him and then pin 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. Now, people are saying the Usos could get involved. I don't know if the Usos can even get into the UK. All right. They couldn't even get into Canada with their legal history. I also don't think that, you know, people were like, oh, well, it looks like Kevin Owens is getting involved with Roman Reigns now. He's going to be, no, he's not. But that is all about him trying to convince Sami Zayn that the bloodline doesn't give a shit about him. And so that he can turn him babyface. They can be babyface challengers to the Usos and hopefully beat the Usos and take the unified tag titles from them. So I don't know if they'll have interference from Zayn or not, but it definitely won't involve Kevin Owens, of all people, because I've heard people mention that. because all the interaction that he's, Roman Reigns owes me one and all this stuff. Kevin Owens thing is going to be focused with Sami Zayn. I can see Sami Zayn getting involved with this, mostly because I don't see the Usos being there. We haven't seen Heyman whatsoever since he got F5 through the table at SummerSlam. So it would be a surprise to me to see him just reappear in Cardiff on Saturday. So for those reasons, I think that it's going to be a clean finish. Now, we've had the Karrion Kross crap going on, and I don't know where they're going with that.
Let me give you two other names, Matt.
I will hold that thought real quick. We're going to take our first commercial break, and we'll be right back.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Mat. Brad, you said you had two other names that may get involved in the main event at Clash of the Castle. What did you have in mind?
Yeah. One is Tyson Fury, the ex-boxer or the current boxer. We know for a fact that he's going to be at Clash at the Castle. He's confirmed it. It's all over the news. I could see him, someone of that level, especially where this event is, where Tyson Fury is most popular in his home country as well, potentially getting involved in this in some way. And name number two is Brock Lesnar. I mean, do you think it's out of the realm of possibility that Brock Lesnar shows up at this match? I don't. I think that those two people, and I could even see Brock Lesnar and Tyson Fury showing up during the main event to feud with each other outside of the ring and them having a thing, the ex-UFC guy, Brock versus the boxer, Tyson. And I could see this creating some sort of crazy chaos outside of the ring that leads to some sort of crazy finish in the ring. Now, that might be a little bit too much, but I could see one or the other getting involved. I don't think Tyson Fury is there just to watch the event. And I don't think Tyson Fury is there for the Guenther Sheamus match. I think he's there to get involved in this match. Now, I could be wrong. Guenther Sheamus is the only other match potentially I could see him getting involved in. But I think it's this main event, man. What do you think of that?
I thought you were going to say Solo Sikoa.
No.
But, I do think there is some merit to the thought that if you're going to have Drew McIntyre lose this match after all this build up for him, and how much they're showing it means to him, and it being in the UK, where he's from, Now that being said, all where it's from and all that stuff, when WWE goes to another country, let's just say they go to India when Jinder Mahal was the champion. Sure, the people of India want to see Jinder Mahal because he's actually not from there, but whatever. He's actually from Canada. We settled that on one of our previous podcasts, but regardless, when they go to Saudi Arabia, they want to see they want to see the WWE stars. You know what I mean? They want to see Roman Reigns. So I don't know that there's going to be much of a difference. And, I won't know till we see it. Much of a difference between the reactions that Roman Reigns gets in the States that he gets over in the UK. They may still view Roman Reigns as this big star. Now, of course, McIntyre is going to get cheered and they're going to love him too. But where I was going was, if you're going to have McIntyre lose, given all the pomp and circumstance they've given to this match with respect to his opportunity here and with respect to him being in the UK and being from the UK, all that stuff, you may have to overbook it to make it acceptable to those fans. So you may have to have all kinds of guys getting involved. And, I don't know. Again, I'm not the biggest Karrion Kross advocate. I think he's a good character and things like that. But as soon as he comes out and tries to work a match, I think it's a mess. I think it's very underwhelming. I've seen it enough. And, his finisher is a forearm to the back of the head. That's something I can do to anybody. I don't know. I'm not a Karrion Kross fan, and I don't know how they would get him involved in this, but I think it would be an interesting swerve to see him get involved, and the manner in which it helps Drew win so that Drew becomes champion, and then he can have his eye on Drew after that, and they feud. As far as Lesnar and Fury, of course, there's always a possibility of Lesnar showing up anywhere. They pulled that card right after the Riddle match, which I felt totally sort of buried Riddle a little bit after he got pinned clean in the ring, and then he's sitting over in the timekeeper's area while Lesnar comes out and F5s everybody. But he certainly could get involved here. We haven't heard anything about that, so that would be a surprise. And Tyson Fury, I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about what, on social media or whatever that he has said or anybody has said or reported about what his intentions are with this event. So, but I do understand where you're going there, where you have multiple people attempting to interfere, and then that resulting in them actually brawling with each other because they're, trying to force different outcomes to occur. And then that causes them to get in a fight with each other. And we have a whole overbooked finish with lots of star power. And, the fans are satisfied by seeing all these people, despite the fact that Roman Reigns ends up beating Drew McIntyre and McIntyre loses. So I do see some validity and merit to your idea. I don't know that it's where they're going. At this point, I think they could end up going anywhere because, like I said, you've got Braun Strowman re-signed to the roster, Bray Wyatt rumored to be returning soon. And, Wyatt's another guy that I'm just not a huge fan of. Great character, great creative guy, great human being. But when it comes to work rate in the ring and with all the hocus pocus stuff, that is very difficult to book correctly in a way that doesn't just totally crush whoever he's fighting against. And so a return of him would be something that would not be really my first choice of people to return. I would like to see Bray Wyatt return to WWE if he's going to return to any promotion, but I would just like to see him not have the Fiend character and all that, lights going out and stuff that the Judgment Day was doing at the beginning of their incarnation. So I don't know. I mean, I think that you could be onto something, but I think that, people could have your pick at the litter of what's going to happen here. I do think that, we're not going to see the Usos and we're not going to see Heyman. So it's going to be some stuff that's pretty surprising. I think that that's definitely not something you can argue.
Yeah. And the other person we didn't mention who is not on the card for Clash of the Castle is, of course, Austin Theory. We saw Austin Theory getting involved with Drew McIntyre, getting involved with Roman Reigns, getting involved in this whole situation with the Usos, with the whole bloodline and Drew at Madison Square Garden a few weeks ago. We saw it somewhere else where I'm kind of just forgetting over the last few weeks, but regardless.
We saw it on SmackDown right before SummerSlam in Atlanta. And I think, I'm sorry to cut you off, but to me, that was all things that were occurring prior to SummerSlam, which were sort of still Vince's visions and not totally Triple H's visions. Even though Triple H was driving the boat, he was sort of using Vince's directions, and now it's Triple H's map. So we've seen so much stuff change. I mean, all of a sudden Karrion Kross is coming back and talking about the chosen one, and he's the chosen one. This guy's the chosen one. Nobody's the chosen one. I mean, I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point, very much so. And I think it's too big of a responsibility to insert for Karrion Kross to insert him in that spot of a main event. I mean, this is a guy who has not even had one match on the main roster yet. I mean, he has not even set foot in the same ring as Drew McIntyre or Roman Reigns. I know they fought outside the ring a little bit. I know there was, an attack, and I think that's fine for a regular episode of SmackDown at 9:57 p.m. on the East Coast, but I don't think that's okay when you have 72,000 fans in a stadium in a place that hasn't had a show in 30 years in their backyard. I think it's too big of a responsibility to give Karrion Kross to basically get involved in this main event. I don't think you can do that. And that's what I'm saying. I think Theory has earned that responsibility and proven he could handle that responsibility even more than Karrion Kross, and really, truthfully, more than a Tyson Fury.
I tend to agree with you there, but the thing that would sort of lead me to believe that Theory's not going to get involved just yet is because of his interactions with Johnny Gargano. It seems like he's clearly going to be feuding with him, and if he gets involved in this somehow, then, it's sort of like, what happened to your concern with Gargano? It seems like that's what he's focused on right now. Now, I also agree with you, the fact that you cannot have Karrion Kross come in here and ruin this match right now. I mean, it's not. So what's he gonna do after that? But at the end of the day, like I said, I think that we have to see a Drew victory, or we have to see a Roman Reigns victory accompanied by a smorgasbord and a litany of run-ins and schmaz type finish here. I hope to God they don't DQ the match, but I definitely think that, having it, like you said, the first pay-per-view event over there in 3 decades, and this being something that they've hyped the crap out of for Drew McIntyre and really rebuilt him and heated him up fast and heated him up hot. To have him lose, I don't think he can just lose clean and that be it. I think it's got to be almost overbooked to the point where it's almost too much interference going on. But for the reason that it gives those fans who haven't had a pay-per-view in 30 years have a huge moment. And if that huge moment isn't Drew McIntyre defeating Roman Reigns and ending this stuff, then I think that it's got to be a couple returns or, a couple surprises, multiple people that you're not expecting, maybe Sami Zayn, but if Sami Zayn, somebody else too. And, who knows? I mean, I just think that if you're having Roman Reigns win this match, he's not winning clean, and it's going to be a couple different, it has to be a big sort of type of interference. It can't just be Heyman throwing him the belt or whatever.
Right. I do think though, we are going to see Theory attempt a cash in that's not going to actually count again. And I think that might be a running theme for, 3, 4, 5 pay-per-views consecutively, or whichever one's the championship's involved in, because I just can't see it happening without him running down there with the briefcase and something happen where he gets knocked out. Maybe Tyson Fury just knocks him out, punches him in the face, and that's how, he doesn't get to cash in. I have no idea, but I do think Theory's going to get involved. And again, it's like you said, man, we can't have Karrion Kross, a guy that really people don't care about that much, being the guy who ruins this major main event match. It can't go down that way.
Yeah, and the one way I can see Theory getting involved and, having an unsuccessful attempt to cash in is he's looking to cash in, hits him with the Claymore, as he's trying to cash in. And then that distraction allows Roman Reigns to do what he needs to do to win the match.
That's a very good one.
Yeah, that would be a not a bad idea. And, it would, I just feel like that wouldn't be something that would make people groan. I would groan if Roman Reigns just wins this one clean with a spear in the middle of the ring and nobody get involved. I would groan if Bray Wyatt came back and all the lights came out.
Oh.
I would be pissed off if Karrion Kross did anything, which quite frankly he may. And there's a lot of different things that could happen here. I just think that this is the one time, like I said, the one time other than Lesnar, and we all know every time he's been facing Lesnar that Lesnar most likely wasn't going to win. I didn't think Lesnar would win at Mania. I didn't think he would win at SummerSlam. I will say this about Lesnar, though. If Roman Reigns did not get COVID back in December ahead of day one, and they actually did have their match, I think Lesnar was supposed to win that match. And I think they were supposed to rematch at WrestleMania for the Universal title. And had that happened, we wouldn't have the Roman Reigns 700 days at this point. And so many people are making such a big deal about that. Well, what if he never caught COVID? A lot of people don't think of it that way. And WWE might not give a crap about, and Triple H might not give a crap about what Vince did with Roman Reigns for the past 700 days, or I guess 600 and something before he ultimately retired. So, it might not be that people equate this is like the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. Like it has to be beaten by, the next big thing. It has to be beaten by the right guy. And I don't think that Drew McIntyre is not the right guy. I think that he won the title in front of no fans, and he got no reaction, obviously, because of that. And I think that, he is somebody who can win this, and he's strong enough to carry the company. There's no reason why he couldn't be doing the same thing that Roman Reigns is doing now, just from a formidability standpoint. And then whoever defeats him is still elevated almost in the same manner. I mean, just like I said, if Roman Reigns had fought that day one match and lost that and then won it back at WrestleMania, then it would only be like, however many months reign since he's had it. And there would be no title unification. So I don't know that the amount of days that the reign has is something that Triple H is factoring into that. We still don't know exactly what Triple H's ultimate tendencies are with this. And, like I said, if McIntyre could defeat him, and if he has a couple good title defenses, even against Roman Reigns, and that solidifies McIntyre, then whoever beats him is a big star for beating him. Same as someone would be a big star if they were, a little bit younger and were the one who dethroned Roman Reigns. So that's where I am with it.
Listen, man, there's almost no use in you could come up with 1,000 scenarios, which I'm sure they have in their back pocket right now. I'm sure they're deciding between like 3 or 4 on how to end this thing, but I just don't know where Drew goes from here. If he loses, unless it's maybe a Tyson Fury or someone really big time, because you can't go from Roman Reigns and this whole enormous feud to something small. And then on the flip side, I think that the bloodline is an enormous moneymaker for this company. And I think Roman Reigns being the champion is an enormous catalyst for this company. And, if you're looking at it dollars and cents wise, does it really make sense to put both titles on Drew McIntyre when you have such a great thing going with Roman Reigns? I mean, those are the things that I think about,
What if McIntyre wins this match and then Heyman arranges for a title rematch with Drew McIntyre, but it's only for the Universal title and not the WWE title. And then that's how we split the belts.
I think that's great, but I think it would be too obvious then that Roman would win. Like the minute you announce that the belts are going to be split or only one is on the line is the minute you know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And I don't think Triple H would be that obvious in the way that he would approach it.
What if it is a situation where it's a triple threat match and Karrion Kross is in the match and the first pin counts for the Universal title, the second pin counts for the WWE title, and they split it that way? Then it doesn't necessarily telegraph it as much because the same guy could score both pins.
I agree with you. I think that's a way better idea. And I've heard you mention that on this show maybe, a month or two ago, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, and that's honestly what I would do. I mean, I would do something like that, but I hear you on the value of the bloodline, the value of Roman Reigns, and do you want to end it now that it's going? And even if it happened by accident, it still happened, and you have this, and it's a big, valuable thing. But at the same time, they've built him up so strong that he can still be very strong without the titles, and he can be strong as the heel trying to get the title back. I don't think that him not having the title just totally makes the bloodline irrelevant and useless. I think that it still is what it is. Every time he comes out, they could say he held the fucking belt for 700 days and, and all that shit. His entrance is still going to take 25 minutes. They're still going to sell the merchandise. Everybody's still going to, like him. He's still going to have that music. People are going to stand up and get excited when he comes out, even though he's a heel. Like, I don't think that he definitely has to have the titles just for him to be a value or a money-making piece for the company. But other than that, we'll make our predictions on the match a little bit later. And we're going to get into before we get into Sheamus and Guenther for the Intercontinental title, we'll quickly touch on the Maximum Male Models and Hit Row segment that we saw on SmackDown. It was pretty funny seeing Dupree just not being able to get through that photo shoot because he couldn't stand the Hit Row music. And then they get pissed off and they go and basically write with dry erase marker on a bus that they thought was the Hit Row's bus, that the Hit Row sucks. To me, they should put an S in front of Hit Row and call it Shit Row. I thought that that freaking rap segment they had a couple weeks ago
was, what an embarrassment.
That was one of the worst things. I mean, that was worse than almost anything I saw Vince do. Seriously. That was worse than any 24/7 segment. I mean, Jesus. They did that they were out there forever. Hit Row, Shit Row, Shit Row, Shit Row, Shit Row. Like, just shut the hell up. Why? What is the purpose of bringing them back? Like, seriously. I haven't talked to one person. All I could think about is I wish that they had signed with AEW so we didn't have to see them. Well, they probably didn't sign with AEW because AEW knew they sucked.
Yep.
I mean, the best part of their act signed with AEW, Swerve Scott. You know what I mean? Nobody else got in there. There's nothing about that group that I find to be appealing whatsoever. And it's not just like I enjoy all types of music. I enjoy rap music. I enjoy music artists. I don't enjoy people that suck at it and that I just can't buy as in-ring competition. I can buy Mansoor and Mace or Mace and Mansoor and
much better.
Right. I've seen Mansoor have a hell of a match with Guenther at a house show before. I don't understand why they don't use him more. But in all reality, like, if they had a tag match, I don't see why it would be a situation where Shit Row's just going to throw the Maximum Male Models out of the ring and just, totally squash them like that. I mean, who the hell are they?
There's no doubt that Maximum Male Model faction is way better than the Hit Row faction in every way, in every single way. LA Knight or Max Dupree is far better than that. B-Fab, Massey and Mansois, both of them, like you said, can do a lot in the ring.
Lotharios are part of it apparently now.
Yeah, man. I don't want to see Hit Row just squash them, but I'm sure that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So to me, that's an example of them, Triple H bringing back these people that maybe one thing if he brought them back and just said, all right, you guys will be on NXT every couple of weeks or something like that. But the fact that they've been so featured on SmackDown to the point where they took up screen time that could have been dedicated to a match between anybody and had to sit there and sing shit row all over and over and over. It was terrible. Like that was I'll tell you what, I know something's bad when I'm watching it and then I'm like, okay. And I'm looking around over my shoulder, listening to like the people walking in the house above me and downstairs, trying to make sure that nobody enters the room I'm in while I'm watching it. And that's what it was like when I was watching that crap. That was an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, you can't emphasize it anymore how bad it was because it's worthy of that type of ridicule. And the LA Knight or Max Dupree was so funny when he was berating that cameraman and saying to him, you're missing the shot. Time is money. What are we paying you for? How long have you been a cameraman? Whatever. I mean, that was so good. And then you have these morons from Hit Row that are somehow teamed up with the Street Profits a little bit, which is annoying too, because I like the Street Profits. And you just don't like to see it, man. It was funny, really quick. Someone had said to Carmelo Hayes, you should join up with Hit Row if you ever get to the main roster. He just wrote back, no thanks, no interest. I mean, why would a guy like Carmelo Hayes, who's a future absolute superstar, be willing to team up with these morons or looking to team up with these morons? I honestly, man, I never pray for anyone to get injured. So I just want to see them off my television and I never want to see them again. Any one of those three. I don't want to see them anymore.
Well, you did mention somebody in Carmelo Hayes that we will be seeing on the NXT pay-per-view Sunday, not Clash at the Castle, but he will be facing Ricochet to defend the North American title. So that is pretty interesting and I think will be a great match with Ricochet. Now, while we're on that topic, before we take our next break, what do you think about that? Ricochet and Carmelo.
Yeah, I could not be more excited about that NXT pay-per-view and specifically the Ricochet Carmelo Hayes match. That is going to be amazing. I'd be shocked if Carmelo loses. And I think this is really a tune-up for Carmelo to go against a guy like Ricochet who, I don't think Ricochet is going to win the NXT North American Championship and bring it up to SmackDown or anything. But Carmelo Hayes is amazing. And I think we're going to see his skills on full display. And he will be someone we will be seeing probably on Friday night, but maybe Monday night.
Yeah,
very soon.
I definitely think that this is Ricochet's not being utilized on the pay-per-view. There's no reason for him not to be utilized. A great way to utilize him is to put him down there on the NXT pay-per-view for the North American title. He can sell for anybody. He's one of the best, in-ring sellers they have on the roster, in my opinion. He's got outstanding moveset. He makes everybody he's against look great. And I think that, this is just a way to further push Carmelo Hayes up on his ascent to eventually make the main roster, like you said. We're going to take our second break here, and we'll be right back.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Mat. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Beyond the Mat WWE. and give us a 5-star rating or review on all podcast platforms. Next up, Clash at the Castle. And on SmackDown, we had a showdown of Guenther and Sheamus. They stood there and stood there and stared each other down while their, Butch and Ridge Holland fought with Ludwig Kaiser roll, and that ended up with Butch and Ludwig Kaiser both at the feet of Sheamus and Guenther, respectively, and they picked them up. I think this match is going to be an absolute slugfest. I can't wait to see how chopped up and how freaking red Sheamus's chest is after the chops that he's going to get. I mean, there's nobody with whiter complexion than him. And I wonder, is Sheamus going to be able to even get Guenther in the position to do his 10 beats of the Baldwin on him over the ropes? But regardless, I think this is going to be a banger of a match. And I think that, this is one of the opponents I really wanted to see Guenther against. What do you think about this one?
I can't wait for it, man. I think this is going to be so great. My daughter mentioned the same thing you did about Sheamus and the white skin and how incredibly pale he is, but he is so terrific. And I did think, that the stare down was, I know a lot of people praised it. I didn't love it so much because it's so unrealistic to think that throughout all that chaos and these guys flying around and nailing each other and knocking each other out, that you're just going to stand there and just stare for that long. It was a little too long for me to stare, but nevertheless, I can't wait for this match.
Yeah, I mean, I like the segment. I kind of like it when the two guys that are going to be fighting the match in the segment aren't actually interacting, but their lackeys are fighting it out, because it sort of just shows the heat that's sort of radiating between the two different groups. Even though, Guenther only has a partner, it just, I don't know. I felt like it was effective. I did think that Sheamus was a little bit goofy on the microphone when he was saying banger after banger after banger, and then he wanted the crowd to say banger and they didn't. But at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a hell of a match. Like I said, one of the opponents I really wanted to see Guenther face, because I think Sheamus is great. Sheamus puts on great matches no matter who he's with, and Guenther is definitely, a hell of a wrestler in the ring, and, a hell of a devastating force in there. So I think that it's going to be a great match at the Clash of the Castle. Now, moving on to Raw, I thought that one of the biggest things coming out of the night was the Riddle and Rollins exchange. And the reason I say that is not only because of what happened, but also because, this match got taken off of SummerSlam. Riddle had the kayfabe injury. There was basically no story, no, heat between the two guys, no reason for them to be fighting other than the fact that, Riddle's a top baby face and Rollins is a top heel. And Rollins is one of the top heels that baby faces go through, just like Cody Rhodes beat him 3 times to go through him before he injured his boobie. And, so they show us sort of a cell phone video, which I thought, a lot of people praised that. I thought it was a little bit Bush League, having somebody with the cell phone video and saying like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, acting like it was a real fan doing that. But they show a little brawl in the parking lot. Then they have a side-by-side interview, which for whatever reason, Corey Graves had to go backstage for. The interview between the two of them was a little bit timed wrong. Like I felt like that it felt unnatural the way that they would talk, and like it was like immediately after the other one finished, the next one talked. But Riddle eventually said that Becky's the only man in their marriage. And then once they came back from the break, they said Riddle and Rollins did not know that the cameras were still rolling. And Rollins sort of, got out of his character voice and was like, Riddle, you want to talk about family? Well, at least I have a family. your wife divorced you, took your kids. You can't even see him anymore. And then Riddle got pissed off and started dropping F-bombs and wanted to find him and said he wanted to F him up. And I felt like this was very effective at, making me feel like, all right, let's go. Now I got some reason to want to see these two kick the crap out of each other. So what'd you think of this situation?
Yeah, same as you. I thought it was really great. And, it really made you care about it even more. Really, the only thing that Riddle and Rollins have done outside of the Madison Square Garden ending of Raw, where Riddle got stomped into the steel steps, was, at Money in the Bank, Riddle got him down off the ladder with an RKO. So there was really not a lot to this until this segment, and I thought it was really effective, Matt.
Yeah, I thought this was really, really well done and certainly really needed. And it definitely, put the heat on the fight and, made you want to see him fight. So moving on from that, we had Raw open with Styles and Ziggler versus Judgment Day. There's a cool spot in this match where Balor was trying to, it looked like either Styles Clash or powerbomb Dolph Ziggler, but whatever he was trying to do got reversed right into a famouser. But at the end of the day, Priest hit the South of Heaven chokeslam and pinned Ziggler for the win. We then had Edge show up in a Mercedes SUV. He came in, cut a promo on the Judgment Day, told them that they must not have learned anything because he doesn't show up alone. In come Mysterio, both of them. I guess Mysterio squared. We have Rey and Dominic kendo sticks beat down the Judgment Day sans Rhea because they're not going to hit a woman. And then we have left in the ring, we have Dominic and Rhea trying to talk him out of the kendo stick, trying to get him to drop it. And he's sitting there holding it like it's his dick or something like that. And she gets him to drop it. And then Judgment Day pulls Rhea out of the ring once Rey and Edge get back into the ring. So, that was a little bit interesting. And then that set up a match for Clash of the Castle between Judgment Day versus Mysterio and Edge. Backstage, Dominic was a little bit disappointed that he was not going to be in the match. He said that, I thought this was about family. Rey saying that this is family. Edge is like family to me. I've known him forever, whatever. And, you're better off in the corner because Edge has more experience, and that's what I need here. And you can clearly see that Dominic was not happy about this, and could also clearly see that Dominic has not forgiven Edge for spearing him a couple weeks ago. And another thing I will add to this is that a couple weeks ago when we had the Mysterio celebration, I believe at the MSG show that you were at, we had Mysterio get awarded or gifted his gear from back Halloween Havoc, and it was Judgment Day colors. It had a lot of purple in it, and if you looked at Dominic in that segment, he was very enamored by this gear, this purple gear with the purple mask. And so I think that where I'm going with this is we're going to see this match and we're going to see Dominic finally turn heel, and he's going to don that gear, that purple gear, in one of the ways that they'll sort of hide his bland, emotionless, lack of charisma that he has is by putting the mask on him. And he will have that Halloween Havoc gear, maybe not the same exact gear, but gear that looks like that. And he will be a part of the Judgment Day once this is all said and done. And I think the Judgment Day will go over in this match. I mean, they have not really won too much stuff ever since Edge left them. And I think that's what we're going to see here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the way this match is going to play out with Dominic turning on them. And it also seemed like Rhea Ripley kind of has, Dominic in the palm of his hand. So that will be interesting, with the way put down the kendo stick, almost like a lion tamer. She was like kind of like approaching him very slow, but like kind of knowing that she would get him to give up the stick he was holding,
Yeah, I definitely think that Ripley has a lot to do with the turn too, and I think that it's something good for her. Now, one of the things that sort of I've questioned is what the hell happened to the fact that Rhea Ripley was supposed to get a women's title shot. Doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon, but at the same time, if she can sort of be the catalyst that helps Dominic make the heel turn and make this interesting, and Dominic's her little bit, because you can just tell by the way that she's choked him out with her legs, and she talked him out of this kendo stick thing here. Her whole thing is going to be like she's turning him into a real man, not his fada, as Finn Balor likes to say, because Finn Balor says that Ray is a bad fada. So
right,
that's what I think's going to happen here. I think we're on the same page with that one. So another weird thing that happened on Raw was, again, we've seen this Dexter Lumis stuff the past couple of weeks. There was a point backstage where he was in security gear, and Miz thought he saw him. And then when they went back to the security guy, it was just a regular security guy. Adam Pearce is trying to console him, ask him if he needs help. And then he tells him that, he was let out because you don't want to talk about it. So whatever happened with Dexter Lumis when he abducted Miz and, choked him out and brought him out of that arena, and everybody in the arena was laughing about it, Miz does not want to talk about it. So I wonder what exactly he did to him. And then, of course, at the end of the day when Miz was leaving and Ciampa was calling him Mike, which is another thing I wanted to briefly mention. Riddle got his first name back. They were referring to him as Matt Riddle. Austin Theory got his full name back. I feel like we're going to see Tommaso Ciampa be called Tommaso Ciampa rather than just Ciampa here sometime soon. And but so we have Tommaso Ciampa saying, Mike, you sure you're okay? All this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I got to get out of here. Gets into his SUV. And then as it pulls away, somehow Miz doesn't notice that a light is shining in the back, way back of his SUV, and Dexter Lumis is back there. So that is still going on. Dexter Lumis is stalking of the Miz. What do you think about that whole situation, if anything?
I don't know, man. It's incredibly strange. It's it's a weird situation, obviously, but I don't understand the I don't want to talk about it. Almost like someone who got sexually assaulted in jail or something. Yeah. It's a little weird for me, man. And to me, it kind of takes the fun out of the Miz character, which I really like about the Miz. At least for this little time being, he's now kind of this kind of melancholy figure now, and kind of portraying him as crazy and all these different things. And really quick, just on the Austin Theory thing, getting his name back, he did say Austin Theory that it was his idea to drop Austin, and he likes being just Theory. He was on some interview with some local Boston radio station or something like that this week, and he said, I don't really want to be Austin Theory, whatever. Not that it matters, but yeah, it was kind of interesting that Ciampa was calling him Mike over and over again, quite a few times. And I don't know. I just, this storyline, unless we'll see how it progresses, but it's not really something I'm super excited about, because I kind of like the fun Miz, not the kind of I'm trying to grasp for the right word, but not the Miz version that we're seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a dark storyline. At least that's how they're portraying it. We'll see where it goes. Not really my cup of tea either, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. But moving on from that, we were in Pittsburgh for Raw, so we had Kurt Angle come out before he could really say too much. Got interrupted by Chad Gable. Chad Gable was absolutely hilarious, saying, we have an Olympic hero in the ring and Kurt Angle. And eventually he got interrupted by the Street Profits. The Street Profits come out in Pittsburgh Steelers looking gear and take on the Alpha Academy in best of 1,000 match, I guess, because they faced so many times. Cool spot in this match when Otis was being pretty funny, because the stipulation was that if Alpha Academy won, Kurt Angle would have to join them and basically be their bitch, I guess. And so got ringside, we have Otis come up to Kurt Angle and say, "You're joining the Academy. You're joining the Academy." And then right at that point, Dawkins comes and pounces him over the announce table. And he basically went flying harder than I've ever seen Otis go flying. And he took out Byron Saxton. Another cool spot in the match, we had Montez Ford going for a springboard blockbuster over the top rope, which Gable countered into a nice looking Northern Light suplex with a bridge pin combination. Only got 2. Match concluded with Montez Ford hitting the frog splash for 1, 2, 3. So Kurt Angle will not be joining the Alpha Academy. And then after the match, Profits went to drink with Kurt Angle. See, I didn't like this at all. Kurt Angle is somebody who has had alcohol issues. Obviously, he's had multiple DUIs. They give him the cup, he spits it out, and it's just, for people with alcoholism and things like that, you don't give them alcohol. And
yeah,
even if they spit it out, they still were forced to taste alcohol. And Kurt Angle has had issues with that. Obviously, he's battled a lot of demons over his career, but eventually they get to the cooler full of milk jugs and they drink the milk jugs. So that was pretty cool. And then later in the night backstage, Edge and Angle did the picture gag that they did years ago. So that was just something that happened. You got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the Angle's throwing the milk jugs into the crowd and people are begging for them as if it's something great. It's just a stupid milk jug. It's, I just thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, man, I think you recapped it very well.
Yep. And then on from that, we had Kevin Owens take on Jey Uso. Pretty good match there. I think the big situation here was where we had Kevin Owens being held back by Jimmy and a chair being wielded by Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn just couldn't bring himself to hit Kevin Owens. So we're foreshadowing here Zayn disappointing the bloodline and hopefully joining Kevin Owens in a tag team situation. And hopefully they'll be going after the Usos. I do not think that, everybody's just talking about Owens being the next challenger for Reigns and all that. No, that's not happening. They're forming a tag team with him and Sami Zayn, and they're probably going to be the team that wins is the next tag champions, whenever the hell that is. And so and I'm not trying to lecture people. I'm just saying that's what I'm seeing. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, of course. And, it was funny that Sami Zayn, I forget which post show it was on or what it was on post Raw, but he was on and they said, "Why didn't you hit Kevin Owens with that chair?" He said, "To be very clear, I would have been happy to hit Kevin Owens with the chair, but I thought the ref could see me out of the corner of his eye and I didn't want to ruin the match for Jey Uso. So that's why I didn't do it." So he's still, sucking up to the bloodline.
Yeah, but he's full of shit.
So we're not quite there yet. Of course he's full of shit. It was funny. And he's just, being a weasel. This is why I didn't do it, But I agree with you, Matt. There's no Reigns Owens. It's Usos, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn.
Yeah, because to me, like, regardless of what Zayn says on Raw Talk or whatever, it doesn't really matter what he says. It matters how the Usos take it and how Roman takes it, and how the bloodline takes it. And if they take it as he was not supporting them, he'd rather support Kevin Owens, then they're going to throw him the fuck out of there anyway. And so that's what I think. I think that's more of what you're not going to see Zayn just decide to not hit Owens with the chair, but smash Jay with it. You're just going to see the bloodline, completely turn on him, or maybe a combination of him coming to his senses and the bloodline, saying the hell with you. We could even see Zayn interfere in the main event at Clash at the Castle and do it in such a way that screws Roman Reigns up. You know what I'm saying? We've seen him take the Claymore kick successfully. Maybe this time tries to come in there and take the Claymore kick, but he ends up taking a fucking spear, and that allows Drew to get the upper hand on Roman. You never know. There's a lot of different things. Now, we already went
Sammy's been, and sorry to interrupt, but Sammy's been involved with Drew for months. Remember those cage matches where he got out, and then there was the lumberjack match where he got away. And so he's been involved with Drew McIntyre for months.
Yeah, they just had the main event on SmackDown too. So yeah, he's been involved with McIntyre. He's fighting him on behalf of the bloodline. Then to close out Raw, we had the women's tag team tournament finale, won by Raquel and Aaliyah. We touched on that at the beginning of the show, so we really don't have much more to talk about other than make our Clash at the Castle predictions, which will include Liv Morgan and Shayna Baszler that we didn't get to because there really wasn't much between the two of them this past week. So right after this break, we'll get into our Clash predictions.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, Brad, you ready to make some predictions on the Clash of the Castle?
Let's do it.
All righty. All right, first up, we have Judgment Day versus Edge and Rey Mysterio with Rhea Ripley in Judgment Day's corner and Dominic Mysterio in Edge and Rey's corner. Who do you have winning this match?
Judgment Day with some sort of interference or outcome based on Dominic.
All right, so you think that Dominic turns then?
Yes.
All right. And how many people interfere?
I don't think it'll really be interference. I think it'll be more. Well, I think it'll be more Rhea Ripley egging on Dominic to do something where he does something behind the ref's back. So I guess one.
Yeah, I mean, distraction counts as interference. So
okay, there you go. Okay, yeah, all right. So one.
Who do you have pinning who?
Damian will pin Rey.
And does anybody kick out of the coup de grace?
No.
Does Rey hit a 619?
I think it will be missed a few times. And I think at the end of the match, you'll see a few coup de grace from Finn, like kind of rubbing it in, type of thing.
And do you think that Rey will hit a 619?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I also had the Judgment Day winning this match. Dominic turning. I have Dominic and Rhea both interfering or causing some kind of distraction. I do think somebody will kick out of the coup de grace. I do think it'll be attempted multiple times too. But, and then I do think we'll see a Judgment Day beatdown of Rey and Edge at the end of the match. So that's what I think is going to happen there. Next up, we have the 6-woman tag match, Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss versus Bailey, Sky, and Kai. Who do you have winning this match? Who do you have pinning who?
After losing the tag team championships, I'd be shocked if this Sky, Kai, Bailey team did not win. So I'll say them.
Who pins who?
We're going to go with Bailey pinning Asuka.
All right, I got Bailey's team winning with Bailey pinning Bliss.
Gotcha.
Got anybody interfering?
No.
All right.
I think, a lot of interference in the other matches, not this one.
Okay, the SmackDown Women's Championship, Liv Morgan against Shayna Baszler. Liv Morgan obviously has cashed in to win the title against a wounded Ronda Rousey and then scored a pin while tapping out against Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam. Fans have seemingly turned on her a little bit when she's in front of the crowd on SmackDown, but at the same time, they've kept her sort of out of that situation the last several weeks. Who do you think is going to go over in this match?
Liv Morgan.
By pin or submission?
By pin.
Do we see Ronda Rousey get involved?
She might show up ringside or something. I would say no. No.
So nobody interferes?
No.
All right. I think that Baszler is going to win this match by submission, and I do not see any interference at all. Moving on, we have Riddle and Rollins. Who do you think wins this match?
I think Seth Rollins is going to win this match. I think Riddle's ice cold right now.
Yeah, I think Rollins will win this match as well. Does Rollins kick out of an RKO?
Yes.
Does Riddle kick out of a stomp?
No way.
Does anybody interfere?
No.
All right. Next up, we have Guenther versus Sheamus for the Intercontinental title. The first time that the Intercontinental title has been defended on a pay-per-view since last year's WrestleMania. Who do you have in this match?
Guenther.
By pin or submission?
By a pin.
And anybody interfere?
Ooh, it's a hard one. I'm just going to say no.
All right, I got Guenther winning by pin. I think everybody will interfere. I think Kaiser, Holland, but I think everybody will get involved in this one somehow, some way. If not by direct interference, but by brawling on the side and causing some sort of distraction, or, Ludwig Kaiser helping, distracting the referee or some shit like that, or messing up Sheamus when he's running the ropes, something like that. So moving on. And finally, we have the main event, Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal WWE Championship. Who wins this match, and by pin or submission?
Oh, I feel like it's almost impossible to predict. Like it's a coin flip. So I'm going to say Roman by pin.
Does Roman kick out of a Claymore?
No, but he doesn't. I don't think he's going to get one. I think it's going to be like blocked by someone else interfering or something along those lines.
How many spears does Roman Reigns hit?
3.
And how many people interfere?
3.
Does the announce table get broken?
Yes.
All right, so I have Drew McIntyre winning this one. I do have Roman kicking out of the Claymore. I also have Drew kicking out of 1 spear. And I have 2 people interfering, and the announce table will break. All right, so that does it for the actual matches on the card. Do you see any returns of superstars or wrestlers that we have not seen on television lately?
Oh, 100%. Without question. Without question, that will happen.
How many?
3.
And do you have a name for all three?
Ooh. I think we're going to see Tyson Fury, if you can count him. I think you can count him. I think we're going to see Brock Lesnar. And I think we're going to see potentially at the end of the Riddle Seth Rollins match to save him, Randy Orton.
All right. I think that we're going to see the return of Charlotte Flair. And we're also going to see Naomi and Sasha return. So we're going to get 3 women return. And we're also going to see Bray Wyatt return in some capacity here. I don't actually think it's going to have anything to do with the main event. I just think he's going to return maybe after the Judgment Day match or something like that. But I do think we're going to see Bray Wyatt return as a surprise here in the UK. But that's just what I think. And you never know really what's going to happen. But that pretty much does it for our show tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. And I hope you all enjoyed the Clash of the Castle. Thank Brad for joining me as well. Remember to follow us on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE and subscribe to our podcast on all podcast platforms. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. And don't be shy. Send us a message on Twitter and we will answer it on the show in our next mailbag segment that we will do next week. Other than that, have a good night, guys. It's been great. We will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Mat. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a show.